This video will show you a very simple way of storing your program's data using VB6 6. The control I'm going to use is called configuration file, and it was created by myself. It stores data in key value pairs, and while the program is running, this data is stored in memory, and when the program stops running, the data is saved to disk and then loaded again once the program restarts. This program I've got here is a simple address book, and at the moment it's got no code behind it at all, and the ActiveX control that we need is called configuration file, and the link to download this can be found in the comments for this video. So I'm just going to add this to the form. I'm just going to call it CF, and you can store this program is going to have a list of people, and for each person you're going to be able to store their phone number, the city they live in, and a list of email addresses. And the configuration file will also store the name of the address book. So the first thing to do is to create a file. And the write value method is used to do this, so I'm going to need to specify the create a value for the title, which at the moment has no data in it, and also a value which specifies how many people are in the address book, and everything is stored as strings. So now I just need to use the config save method to save a file, and I'm going to use the app.path, the path property of app, which specifies the location of the app's exe file if it was compiled, which is not yet, so it will just be stored in the same folder as where the project is saved. So I'm just going to call it addressbook.txt. So that's done, so I can now get rid of this code. And as you can see, it's been written, and that is the data I've written so far. So now I just need to put in the code to load this file to the program. And also I need to create a loop, and this will load each person into the list, and as you know, at the moment there's no people to load, but there will be eventually. And to retrieve a value from the config file, you just use getValue, so that will just be people. And then I just want to add each person to the list. So each person is going to be stored with the word person and a number after it to identify them. So that's pretty much it for that. So now I want to write the code to add a person, which will be against this button here. So I need a string, and an input box to allow the user to type some text in. And just in case someone types nothing, then I'll exit the sub. So now I just need to write the value of the person. So in order to get the next number, I'm going to create a variable to get the amount of people within the file. So that will be p plus 1. And the value will be the name, which is stored in the s variable. And I'm going to set up the data, or the keys for the phone. And the city. And finally the number of email addresses they have. Which at the moment is 0. Now it's just a case of updating the people key to indicate how many people are in the list. And also adding the name of that person to the list. And I'm going to use this opportunity to add the code for saving the file to disk, which goes in form on load. And I'm just going to test it out. So now when I close this program and reopen it, this person should appear in the list. As you can see, that's worked. I need a way of retrieving the data when someone clicks on the person's name. So the value of I has to be the current list value, or the list index, plus 1. Because the first item in the list index is 0, but for this program the first person is referenced by its 1 based rather than 0 based. So that's the reason for adding 1 here. At the moment there's no way of saving the phone and city information. So the best way of doing that probably is to create a button which will save this information. This is obviously not the best way of designing a form, but it's just to demonstrate the program really. So now I'm just going to see whether this works. Firstly, I'll add another person. If I was to do this in real life, I'd probably disable these text boxes until the user clicked on one of the names. So as you can see, the data is stored against this person here. And we'll just have a look at the text file. So you can see that there's two people. Person 1 is Dave, phone 1 is this, city 1 is this. Hasn't got any email addresses yet. And second person is Steve, who has neither a phone number or a city at the moment. So what I will do now is add the ability to add an email address. So I'm going to need initially a couple of variables here. One is the index of the currently selected person, and I need a string for the new email address. So I'm just going to copy this code here. I'm just retrieving the name of the currently selected person. So I'm going to need a variable to specify how many email addresses the person has got at the moment. And now it's really just a case of adding the new email address to the config file. So this will work by firstly identifying the key as the index of the person, then there's to be an underscore, and then it will be the email identifier. So that will have to be 1 because it's going to be 1 plus how many emails they already have. Just a case of updating the emails key as well, which will just be emails plus 1. This is definitely easier than it looks. It might look a bit complicated at the moment, but once you get used to it, it's pretty simple, to be honest. You just really have to think about when to put the right line of code, because you can easily make mistakes. And now I'm just going to add this email address to the email address list. And before I test it, I need to have a way of loading all the email addresses a person has when their name is clicked on. So before I test this out, I've just realised there's a problem up here. This needs to have the index added like that, otherwise it will just write to the keyword emails, which doesn't refer to anything, so you have to have the identification of the person here as well. So now I can test this out. And if I click on this person, all of this data should disappear, and if I click on this person again, it should all reappear. There you go. The final thing to do is to just set the title, well, to save it to the file just before the config save method is used. And also load it after the config file is loaded. As you can see, everything works as it should. And this also saves as it should too, which is good. We're just going to have a final look at the text file. So you can see that in terms of emails, emails 1 has 2 email addresses. Emails 2, which is Steve, has 0. This line here is a mistake, because that should have been this bit here. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So as you can see, email 1, email person 1, email address 1 is this. Sorry, person 1, email address 2 is that one there. So that's pretty much it really. As you can see, if you don't want to use a database in your program, this is an alternative, and it's also, the file that's saved is easily distributed with your program if necessary, and also it's easy to save the file elsewhere, so you can have, your program can open different files. For example, if you wanted to save several different address books, you could just load and save the files as and when you wanted. This also demonstrates only some of the functionality of config file. There are dedicated methods for saving sets of data, but you can read all about that on the link I've put in the comments of this video. If you have any other questions, please feel free to add your own comments below. Thank you very much for watching.